Hello, everybody. My name is Scott van Hartesvelt. I'm the founder of GCommerce. And for those of you who know me, I consider myself a happy warrior when it comes to the hospitality industry and in particular hospitality marketing. I think that started the first time I worked in a hotel, which was when I was 14 years old. For the next 8 years, from 14 to 22, I worked both front of the house and back of the house in hotels and restaurants and developed a real love and a real passion for this industry, such that it became my life's work. I love the people. I love the things that we get to, the experiences that we get to deliver, not just for our guests, but in getting to know each other. It's a very human business. It's probably the most human business that I can think of. And I love people. And so there's something a little perverse and a little unsettling about today's topic, which has a lot to do with AI, machines taking over this very human space. I've wrestled with that a lot. My team has wrestled with that a lot. We've thought about how we can balance developing tools and developing marketing techniques that can help you as a hotel or as a resort, and ultimately help connect with guests, while at the same time preserving the thing that makes this industry really special. And so I hope we find that balance, and I hope we're able to strike that balance both as an organization and as an industry. Like I said, it's a little unsettling at this point. But this isn't the first time in the 23 years that I've owned GCommerce that I've felt like we've been in unsettling times. Actually started this company in 2002. 9/11 had just happened. The industry was in a pretty existential place. People were scared to travel. Expedia had just IPO'd in 2000 and was disintermediating us as an industry. And collectively, I think that there was a lot of anxiety out there. At the same time as all of that geopolitical stuff was going on, Google had just launched for really the first time their first commercial model, which was this thing that you see on the screen right here. Google paid search ads came to become probably, arguably, one of the most profitable and dominant business models over the last 20 years that the United States had ever seen. Over 90% for a very long time, over 90% of Google's revenue was driven from these little tools, and for good reason. If for those of you who are as old or older than me and can kind of think back to the early days of marketing before Google launched these little ads, a lot of our marketing was based on newspaper advertising, taking out quarter page ads in Travel and Leisure magazine, some radio work, some print advertising, mailers, advertising with AAA. This was a sea change for a lot of reasons, not the least of which we could target audiences in a way that we've never been able to target audiences before. Behavioral targeting was introduced by Google and has become kind of the standard by which we measure all other marketing today. We could actually tell, here is somebody who in this very specific time in this very specific place is searching for a luxury hotel in Boston, and place our client a luxury hotel that happens to be in Boston in front of that prospect. And better yet, we would only charge, or Google would only charge, if that future guest actually actually clicked on that ad. So behavioral targeting was a revolution, and yet there was a lot of skepticism out there, a lot of skepticism from the clients that we would talk to and the prospects that we would talk to. It was new, it was different. Like I said, it was unsettling times, and we continue to see or hear the same feedback, which was, I don't know if I can trust this. I don't know how to manage this. I don't know how to prevent fraud. There was a lot of concern that people competitors would click on client advertising, running up costs because it was priced on a cost per click basis. So as a result of this, you saw some people jump in early. A lot of our clients jumped in really early into this technology. We're able to generate a little bit of a premium, and others lagged a little bit behind and took a while to be convinced. In the late 2000s and early 2010s, obviously, again, we dealt as an industry with a pretty existential crisis. Never forget, and as 2008 and 2009 housing crisis really rolled across the economy and rolled across our industry, hotels were really struggling with not just their mortgage payments, but finding a market. We had a lot of properties and a lot of clients of ours that either went bankrupt or really had to control their spending. At the same time, maybe not by coincidence, social media was launched. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at the time became models that offered advertising and access to customers in a way that we had never had access to before. Like behavioral targeting and Google changed the perspective of marketing at the time, Facebook and other social media platforms did the same with psychographic targeting. So not only could we target somebody from a marketing perspective based on somebody's behavioral signals, we could also target them based on their psychographic signals, who they are, what they like, who they were friends with. It's extremely powerful tools. And what was interesting about it was both because of the economy and because this was new, the advertising models were really inexpensive. It was inexpensive in comparison to almost any other tool to market over Facebook. And still, there was a lot of skepticism at the time. I remember having arguments with clients constantly. My customer isn't on Facebook. My traveler is a well-heeled traveler. It's just kids that are on Facebook. Or even better, people aren't planning their travel over Facebook. We had, once again, clients that jumped in early on and reaped the benefits of cheap customer acquisition, new targeting, and kind of explored what was available to them from a marketing perspective through these channels, and others who were late to react. Flash forward to the early 2020s. Obviously, as an industry, we faced likely one of the largest existential threats, at least that I've ever come across in this industry, with COVID. The entire industry, the entire world shut down, and with it, fear and anxiety took off. And again, at the same time, there were revolutions and innovations that were happening in marketing. You had significant advances in data and data-driven marketing. You had advances in OTT, CTV, micro-targeting, and micro-influencers. And through all of this, again, you had concerns from the market. They weren't comfortable with what was changing with marketing. They weren't comfortable with what was changing with data. And so I would argue that in each of these cycles that I've been blessed to see over this long career in owning and managing GCommerce, that there has been a pattern that's emerged in each one of these moments. First, we see a lot of dislodging and economic anxiety. And at the same time, oftentimes you'll see an emergent technology that some are fast to jump on and some aren't. And so what you end up seeing is something that's kind of similar to what you see on this graph, which is that early adopters are able to grab market share and grab advantage and structural advantage that they're able to maintain over a long period of time by moving quickly at these new adoptions in the face of that anxiety. While others, late adopters, are convinced that their customers aren't there, that they won't be able to reap the benefits, or that they want to wait and see what will happen with this technology before they jump on board. So if we think about what's going on now, again, I'm a marketer and I'm an entrepreneur. I am not a socioeconomic professor or somebody who truly understands geopolitics. But what's clear to me is that anxiety is at its peak right now, between tariffs, international travel patterns changing, especially into the United States, projections of negative RevPAR growth, and this kind of strange consumer behavior that seems emergent and is difficult to quantify. It feels as though we are on the precipice of something new. And so what we have at this moment is what I kind of refer to as the dreaded double whammy. On one side, you have declining confidence in future financial performance. And I hear this. I hear this from all of you on a regular basis. I spend most of my day talking to hoteliers, and hoteliers are really finding it challenging to think about how to budget, how to forecast, and how to exceed their owners' expectations going into 2026 in the face of all of this uncertainty. And at the same time, you have this change in consumer behavior. And so the natural reaction for many, many hotels is to decrease the investment in marketing. This is not new. According to Gartner, hotels are allocating only 8.5%, less than 8.5% of their total room revenue to marketing. Whereas pre-pandemic, that was at 11%. That's a good marker for us to understand that, in fact, that investment has pulled back. And some of you may be thinking, hey, he's talking his book, like he owns a marketing company. So obviously this is something that he's going to be really, really self-interested in promoting. Don't decrease your investment in marketing. And there's some truth to that. But at the same time, there's some data that supports that in these previous cycles that I just mentioned, posture matters. The way in which you address changing economic and marketing behaviors will not only dictate the way in which you perform in the short term, but they could actually set up some institutional advantage in the long term. So if you have your phone available and you're watching this and still interested, I encourage you to scan this QR code. I really like smart people. And one of the smartest people in this industry that I've gotten a chance to read, it's kind of one of the people that I hope to meet one day is a gentleman named Shekatan Dev. He's a PhD, works for Cornell. And he does a lot of research and he does a lot of publishing on our industry. So if you haven't had a chance to read him, please dig into his work. One of his seminal works was studying the effects of marketing and that posture as it relates to marketing during economic downturns. And he's studied previous cycles. And what he was looking to do, he and his colleagues, was to establish the difference in behavior between winners and losers. And he would define winners as being those who saw a less steep decline in RevPAR during an economic downturn and a faster recovery. So that was his definition. What he found is that, in fact, those who leaned in during a downturn saw a less steep decline and, in fact, saw that swifter recovery. Winners spent an average of $11.50 per available room versus $6.10 for the losers. That's almost a 50% difference in the amount of resources that they allocated. Those reductions in marketing expenses really came to dictate the overall outcome for the properties. And so here we are sitting on the precipice of what we're considering to be the new customer journey. As I mentioned previously, consumers are acting a little strange. So I would ask you, and we asked ourselves, what truly has changed and maybe isn't showing up in the data yet for reasons that aren't obvious, at least on the surface. For those of you who don't know, this is a ChatGPT prompt. And what's been interesting for me is I've come to find out that a lot of people name their ChatGPT. I had a gentleman tell me that his ChatGPT named itself. I asked what, he said Bob. Apparently Bob doesn't have a ton of creativity or a sense of humor. But I had an opportunity to name my ChatGPT. I named it Elf, which is short for elephant, as in the elephant in the room that could change the world for all of us. So what we've come to understand and study over the last year is just the pace at which ChatGPT and LLMs, large language models, AI, is changing the face of the consumer space in our industry. I just want to pause here for a second. A lot of people are talking about AI in our space. Oftentimes, that conversation is about the tools that you use as operators, as marketers, to leverage AI to reach your customers. And there's nothing wrong with that. We can find efficiencies and innovations across the board. But what I want to talk about today has more to do with the way in which our consumers, our customers, our travelers are using AI to change the way in which they plan their travel. These aren't about the tools that we use. It's about identifying the way in which we connect with our customers. Now, what we understand is that our customers are flocking to LLMs at level and to AI at levels that are pretty hard to even quantify. Almost 1 billion people are active users of ChatGPT. That's a 4-time increase over just a year. 52% of US adults use ChatGPT on a regular basis. Those numbers are unlike anything that we've seen. So as a quick history lesson, it used to be that there was a immutable law in technology called Moore's Law. Moore's Law was invented in 1975, and what it essentially said was that the power of computers, the microprocessors, the microchips that power computers, would double every 2 years. What it was really saying is microchip technology, they'd be able to fit more transmitters on each of those microchips and double those number of transmitters every 2 years. And this held true from 1975 until basically the current day. What that did was it allowed technologists, people who were focused on the future of innovation, whether it be in software or marketing or technology, to dream and to imagine not what was possible today, but what would be possible in 2 years or 4 years, and to work ahead as a result of that. It really empowered futurists to be futures. Just like Moore's law demonstrated that every 2 years, the power of a microchip would double. We understand that incremental growth in power and technology allows, like I said, futurists to look forward at what will happen next. And so, what's happening in AI? How quickly is AI moving? It just so happens that the power of these large language models is doubling every 4 to 6 months. Every 4 to 6 months, which means that in the period of time that you just budgeted for 2026, the power of these tools will double, if not triple. It's really hard to get your mind wrapped around that. But what it means is that we have to be students. We have to be leaning in and growing. At the same time, our customers are flocking to these tools. I love this graphic because it demonstrates just how important and how imminent the change is within our customer base. Speed to reach 50 million users. It took television 13 years to get in front of 50 million users in the households of 50 million users. It took internet 4 years. ChatGPT reached 50 million users in 2 months. 2 months to achieve the same scale that it took the internet 4 years to accomplish. So a lot of you may be sitting there thinking, this is all great, and there's a lot of change that's happening in the industry, but we're travel. We are famously isolated from the rest of the technology universe. We have our own ecosystems, we have our own structures. There isn't technology out there that understands average length of stay, ADR, RevPAR, that can really quantify those things. And so as a result of that, we built our own software. We built our own delivery mechanisms. We built our own customer journeys that take people from inspiration all the way through the process of making a reservation at travel. And so maybe we're immune to this. Maybe this wave of a billion users that have taken on LLMs isn't really impacting our customers when they research travel. So a slightly terrifying idea that I have for you, if you ever wonder, is AI going to actually replace what I do, or is it going to impact what we do? Ask it. I did. So I went to what I have built to be a fairly well-trained ChatGPT agent and asked it if we were immune. These are the real interactions that I had with that ChatGPT. Said, are you going to disrupt travel marketing and booking in the future? Short answer, yes. I won't become an OTA or take payments, but AI assistants, me included, are already collapsing the inspiration to booking journey and changing how travelers discover options, compare, and convert. So there's two things that really stick out for me in that answer. Number one, not going to become an OTA and take payments. And number two, it is already collapsing the inspiration to booking journey. So what the heck is it talking about? This should feel very familiar. This is the inspiration to booking journey funnel, as we all know and love. I've been doing this for a long time now, 24 years. And over that 24 years, this funnel has never changed. People go from inspiration to consideration. Once they have their consideration set, they start to move their way towards having a preference. Then ultimately they have an intent to buy before they actually make that reservation. It is omnipresent. This is what we do as marketers. This is what we do for a living. Over the course of the 24 years that I've been doing this, the tools have changed. It started with Google Ads. It moved to Facebook. It moved to OTT and micro influencers, but this journey has always been the same. So out of curiosity, I looked for some very current data as to how many pages people currently go through in order to execute this journey. ELF, or ChatGPT, says that it's going to compress or even eliminate the inspiration to booking journey. So what is that journey? On average, travelers are going to 141 pages over 45 days before making a reservation. Now, I can tell you that as a marketer, this makes me giddy. This is every single one of these pages is an opportunity 141 times for marketing intervention. We can collect data 141 different times. We can get buying and intent signals 141 different times. We can put your brand in front of a consumer 141 times. So the more opportunities that people have to get in front of, that we have to get you in front of these people during their booking journey, the more opportunity we have to sway them towards your brand. Marketer's dream. So if a consumer is going to 141 pages and spending 45 days traveling, planning their travel, they got to love it, right? This inspiration to booking journey that Alf mentioned, they got to be really into it. Not even close. 56% say they're overwhelmed with too many options. 80% say price comparisons are time consuming. 71% of our customers feel anxious after booking about whether they got the best deal possible. And this one blows me away. 66% of people report being dissatisfied with planning options available today. Folks, we are approaching a $1 trillion industry, and 2/3 of our customers don't like booking from us. They don't like buying from us. That's a problem. That, if you are an entrepreneur, if you're an innovator, if you are sitting in the offices of one of these LLMs, this is an area that is ripe for innovation and it's ripe for opportunity. Want proof that that's the case? Here's what's happening right now. For those of you who are out there who are skeptics and who are wondering if and when AI will impact the way in which people travel or the way in which people plan travel, it's already happening. 62% of global Gen Z adult travelers last year say they used AI to help save them money on their on their travel planning. 78% of travelers are open to an AI assistant that helps them with the process. And 90% of our customers are looking for an all-in-one super app that helps them with their entire travel and planning journey. The inspiration to booking journey collapsed right here. 90% of travelers want a single app to be able to help them handle that. So again, I go back to Elf or ChatGPT and say, what exactly are you doing to help collapse this? Number one, search engine marketing is moving from search results, which we've all known for the last 20 years, like Google search results, to single answers, direct answers. Google and Gemini rolled this out 9 months ago. It feels like a generation ago at this point, but it was probably about 9 months ago. And you've all seen it. It's the direct answer to your question at the top of a search engine. So we as marketers have been addressing that. How do we approach this? I want to just stop and give a quick definition. AEO is a term that we use. It stands for Answer Engine Optimization. Many of you are familiar with search engine optimization. It's the idea of optimizing your website, your hotel or resort website, to be prevalent on search engine results. This is essentially the same thing. It is optimizing your website just to be prevalent in these answer engines or LLMs. Oftentimes you'll hear this referred to as GEO, generative engine optimization. It's the same thing. It's essentially when somebody is doing their travel planning and looking for optimization within those areas, what are the tools and mechanisms that you can use on site in your own marketing that can help ensure that your brand is present there? So what else is Elf doing? Elf says that it's helping with the discovery to decision such that it is happening in a single chat. So somebody can type in, I want to go on a budget vacation in Europe. I like food. I might want to go biking. I might want to spend 5 or 6 days in this particular region. And in a single chat, without ever leaving, without going to other sites, 141 different pages to be exact, in the same chat, they were able to go all the way from inspiration to booking with a single conversation. Book from anywhere is something that's fascinating to me. We're seeing this with Expedia right now. They are testing taking their reservation technology and their commerce opportunities and exporting them into Instagram, into social media channels, so that when you're on Instagram, you can actually stay on channel and make a reservation through Expedia without ever having to go to the actual marketplace itself. And so if you think about this contextually, we have always essentially had two marketplaces whereby a customer digitally can make a reservation with your hotel. They can either go to your hotel website, that's one hub, or they can go to an OTA or marketplace, that's a second hub. Imagine that being distributed to hundreds, if not thousands of pages at the same time and thousands of distribution channels. How far away are we from actually seeing that distribution go directly into ChatGPT? Well, the chat can execute the next step. How far away are we? It's here. Microsoft Copilot is doing this right now. That is one of the LLM and AI technologies that's starting to gain a lot of steam because it's built on the Microsoft platform. So Microsoft Copilot will take you from inspiration to research and ultimately to booking, where it is integrating through API inventory from Expedia, Skyscanner, Priceline. This is a problem. This is disintermediation happening right in front of your eyes. Did you know that this was happening? Did you know that some of those Expedia reservations that you're getting from your hotel are being generated through this new form of customer engagement and consumer engagement called AI? And so what's the impact of this? If we have almost 1 billion users globally that are using AI and ChatGPT, and many of them using it to research and book travel, how many people are actually being siphoned off from our traditional channels and from our traditional funnel into this space? The short answer is we really don't know. It turns out that in each of these channels, in ChatGPT and Perplexity and in Claude, there is no internal reporting. I don't have the ability to generate a report for you to put my hands on data that says your brand showed up in ChatGPT X amount of times, another person's brand showed up Y amount of times. There's no advertising on these platforms. And so we don't have the ability yet to place your brand through paid mechanisms in front of these audiences. It is a black box for us. It's a black box for anybody that's out there. All we can do is guess and kind of work around the edges. One of the things that we can do is do research studies in closed research studies and study those who have also done closed research studies. And here's what we and others have come to find out. HubSpot, a global company that has access to a tremendous amount of use cases, reports that 60%, a full 60% of searches on Google are zero click, which means that somebody types in luxury Boston hotel, and because they are getting the answer through AI directly in the search results, doesn't click on a thing. Zero marketing interventions. Only 8% of people who saw your brand in that AI response, oftentimes you'll see a citing of what the source material is that the AI is responding based on. It often looks like a paperclip. Only 8% actually click on that. And as a result of this, what we are coming to know is that there has been a precipitous decline across the internet of over 45% in organic traffic. So if you're sitting here looking at your analytics over the last few months going, what the heck happened? Did somebody hack my site? Is my tracking broken? This is the impact of ChatGPT and LLMs. Organic traffic is plummeting across the board as people are finding a better, easier, and more efficient way to interact with the data that is available from all of us. We are nervous about this as an organization, but we have chosen, because we've been around for 23 years, we've seen a lot of these cycles happen before. We've chosen to lean in and to find ways in which to remain relevant, not just for us, but for you. How do we help you generate exposure and be on the beginning of that adoption curve that I mentioned earlier, such that you can build some institutional advantage in attracting new customers? Please go to our blog posts. We don't gate this stuff. All of this content is free and available to you. We want to educate the industry, and in educating the industry, hopefully find a way to fight back against the worst instincts and the worst inputs from this. So here's what we've come to discover. These are the things that we have found are successful in helping our clients and our brands show up in those LLM search results. Number one, you got to make sure your website is healthy. This isn't going to sound like it's rocket science, but it's really important. A lot of our client websites, when we first take them over, actually have no follows listed in their robot text, instructing AI agents not to index and follow their actual sites. That is a guaranteed way to ensure that you have zero access to this customer base. You want to make sure that you take care of that. But beyond that, you need to ensure that you don't have broken links. You need to ensure that you have strong internal linking, that your mobile site speed and your site speed in general are up to par and, in fact, advantaged against your competition. Number two, schema. Some would argue that this is the most important and most effective way to get relevance and ranking within LLMs. I think there's probably a lot of truth to that. Schema is a way in which to design structured content in the back end of your actual code on your website That structured content is extremely instructive to the LLMs as to what content is available through your website and on specific pages. This is technical. Many of you probably don't know how to manage schema and structured data markup, but work with your agency. Ask them what they're doing to optimize this. Get third-party analysis on whether your schema and your structured data markup is as effective as it needs to be in order to provide the right signal. Local SEO. This is a huge opportunity for any of us. We always talk about name, address, and phone number, NAP, and making sure that the information that you have on Google My Business and any other local listing site is consistent across the board. All important signal, all really important. But what has become equally important is kind of a return of the influence of reviews. So it used to be 10 years ago, as TripAdvisor was becoming one of the most powerful tools in hospitality digital marketing, we all kind of came around the idea we've got to make sure that we're harvesting the best reviews that we can, that we're responding to reviews that that are both positive and negative, and that we're managing those channels as though our life depends on it. That impetus has returned because LLMs get a huge, huge amount of signal from reviews. Remember, unlike a search engine, they're only surfacing one or two results, right? When you say, I want to stay at a luxury hotel in Boston, it is that LLM's job to return a luxury hotel in Boston that you're going to have the experience you're looking for. So reviews are the third-party signal that allows them to surface your hotel as being the right choice, the only choice oftentimes that they're actually going to surface. Review management is an extremely important thing. FAQs. FAQs, LLMs love structured content that is question and answer. You structure the actual the page with a highlighted question. Is this hotel pet friendly? And then you answer it below with plain language FAQs. A lot of people are recommending this, and we think that it's a no-brainer. You should have an FAQ page. And you can take it one step further. At the bottom of all of your major pages, whether it be dining, rooms, amenities, attractions, you can include an FAQ section for each of those pages. So like I said, a rooms page could say, is this room pet friendly? Does this room have XYZ amenity in it? And then you answer those questions. That provides an additional amount of signal to these LLMs that will really drive results going forward. Conversational tactics or conversational content. This is one of my favorite tactics that's out there. We need to write differently when we are thinking about how we're communicating to the LLMs. This is signal that will help them recognize and relate to you as a brand and surface your content and surface your brand as a recommendation to their users. So what's this look like? Number one, let's talk about natural language. Make it clear, make it approachable, make it human. So I'm going to use an example of the Fairmont Breakers Resort. It's in Long Beach, California. It's a great client of ours. We love them. So some marketing text that will sound very down the middle. The Fairmont Breakers Resort provides luxury accommodations and premium amenities for discerning travelers seeking an elevated experience in Long Beach. Not bad. In fact, something that GCommerce may have written just 2 years ago. Now I want you to compare that with the following. Looking for a relaxing beachfront stay in Long Beach? At the Fairmont Breakers, you'll find spacious ocean views, a rooftop pool, and service that makes you feel at home the moment you arrive. That natural language, that little change, that little repositioning of tone goes a long way with these with these LLMs. Question-based structure, we already talked about a little bit. You want to, as much as possible, pose a question and then answer it in the structure of the content. Providing semantic clarity and context. You still want to have short sentences, but you want to name entities and name the content as best you can. So again, using the Fairmont, they could say our resort offers easy access to major attractions and public transportation. Easy access to major attractions and public transportation. Nothing wrong with that, but better, the Fairmont Breakers is just 5 minutes from the Long Beach Convention Center and steps away from the Pacific Avenue Light Rail stop, making it an easy to explore downtown or reach the airport without a car. That semantic clarity will go a long way in that signaling. And then conversational and empathetic formatting. So empathetic formatting, instead of saying our property offers a variety of room types to suit every guest's needs, variety of room types to suit every guest's needs. What about traveling with a family or planning a romantic getaway? Choose from spacious suites with connecting rooms or private balconies designed for two. Whatever brings you here, we'll make sure you feel cared for. It's human. They can actually pick up and preference content that demonstrates that human touch. On-page SEO remains an incredibly important opportunity. If you are not highly focused on your on-page SEO, this is an area that you need to focus. I would go one step further and say content is king when it comes to AEO and optimizing for ChatGPT. And so this is a perfect opportunity. If you haven't done it yet, start a blog. And if your response to starting a blog in the past was, I don't know that my guests are going to get a huge amount of impact out of this. I don't know that if in those 141 pages that they're going to view my blog, the website blog to find additional information on a particular topic. That's fine. That blog is not necessarily for your guests on your website. That blog is signal to the ChatGPT and these LLMs, giving them additional context about who you are as a brand and those things that you are very, very good at, what we would consider to be your long-term sustainable competitive advantages. Itineraries. This is something that nobody's doing and everybody should be doing. Consumers, we already know, in that collapsing of the inspiration to booking journey, they're planning entire itineraries. So build them for them. This is what a culinary trip to Long Beach looks like. This is what a cultural trip to Boston looks like, a 3-day, a 5-day, a 7-day. You can continue to build out content. You can hide this page on your website. It can be in your footer. It doesn't even have to be something that is well used by your website visitors. But as you build out that content and it grows, you continue to provide really unique signal to these LLMs about how to include and incorporate your property in a complete and comprehensive stay in a destination. Finally, or maybe not finally, I think I've got a couple more. Use YouTube as it should be used, which is the second largest search engine in the world. If you have the ability to produce video, if you have video, optimize the heck out of it. Make sure that it has the appropriate amount of structured data markup and programming behind the scenes to provide as much signal as possible. I'll tell you a funny story. As they were at Google in their research lab starting to train these large language models, one of the first things that they did at DeepMind was they created a massive neural network. So essentially what that is they took 16,000 computers and they put them all together so that they became one kind of mapped mind. And over 3 days, they played 10 million different videos. And they didn't give the neural network, these 16,000 computers, any instructions. They just kept playing video at them for 3 consecutive days. Over that 3 days, there was 10 million YouTube videos that were played. And it just so happened that in every one of those videos, there was a cat. And after 3 days, every time a cat would show up on the screen, there was a neuron that would pop within that neural network. A new invention, a new thing, a virtual digital neuron that had never before been identified, that was not instructed. It's referred to as the cat neuron. It is one of the pivotal moments in AI, and it demonstrated that AI can contextualize video and multimodal content in a way that we never would have expected before. So expect that these models are hungry for this context. They're hungry for this information. And there are very few channels that provide more rich content for it than video. So be engaged in YouTube, be engaged in Reddit, another rich contextual network where you can place your brand, not just to answer a question to a consumer on Reddit, but to provide context and signal back to that LLM. Social media becomes, again, a key focus and factor for you as a brand as you are trying to maximize your exposure on LLMs. One of the things that you need to think about here is, I think as an industry over the last 10 years, we've gotten pretty good at what we call organic content. on social media. What that means is the posts that you make that you don't pay for, that talk about your brand, that talk about the experiences that are happening at your property. There's nothing wrong with that. And it's not very successful when it comes to providing signal for ChatGPT and these networks. And so what we want to do is continue providing that type of social organic experience. And we want to layer in some signal rich posts, maybe a couple per month. You probably don't need a whole lot more than that. What that looks like is start with, for example, answer oriented content. Put a post. What's the best time of year to stay in Long Beach? And then answer the post. Use carousel posts. So instead of just providing something about being pet friendly, use a carousel post that say 5 things you need to know about staying at our hotel with pets. And then each post in the carousel is one of those 5 things. And then make sure that as you're posting these things, you are linking back to schema-rich pages on your website. Post long-form things on social media, featured blogs and long-form content, not things that you would normally post in an organic social environment, not things that you would expect people to read in 10 seconds or less, but things that become contextually rich for LLMs. And then finally, prepare for ads. They're coming. Google is certainly commercializing this space as we speak. And we believe, though it has not been announced officially, we believe that ChatGPT in 2026 will roll out some form of commercial model. They simply have too large of an audience not to explore this point of view. And so I go back to that other thing that came from that other interesting point that came from that original post from ChatGPT, that he won't take payments or become an OTA. So I asked it why. And this was the answer. I can help get from idea to book, but I'm not an OTA and I don't run checkout. When I book, I'm calling a partner's API or deep linking by design. So this is technical, but it's important. They don't want to run checkout. They do want to get people. They want to deliver that experience for a consumer to help them get from inspiration all the way to booking, but they don't want to solve the booking issue, at least for now. Why? Really good reason. They don't want to deal with safety and liability. They don't want to deal with the compliance stack and PCI compliance and dealing with disputes and cancellations and different cancellation windows and the things that we all do by nature and by living, but as a living. They are smart enough to know that they don't want to get involved in that. So then they're providing these deep links and these APIs in order to facilitate the transaction, but not create it themselves. So who gets to provide the deep links? Who is investing in all of this to provide that API connectivity to ChatGPT? You already know the answer. It's OTAs. They are well-funded. They are futurists. They understand better than we do this change in consumer behavior, and they're ready to be out in front of it. And in fact, this is happening today. As I mentioned earlier, Microsoft's Copilot is already connecting with Expedia, Priceline, TripAdvisor, Skyscanner, VRBO. This is where the industry is going as we speak, and this is where the inventory is coming from. And it's incredibly dangerous. We have worked for 20 years to undo the damage that was done in 2000 as Expedia disintermediated our industry from our customers and became a marketplace that sat in the middle of us. It's happening again. Did you know that? Did you know that your property is in the process of being disintermediated? But there's a light at the end of the tunnel. This is, again, directly from ChatGPT. It's fascinating. It will tell you what their plans are if you ask it. I asked it how it would handle direct bookings. It said, listen, if you give me a direct CRS booking pass, I'm going to prioritize it. And for good reason. It's fresher, it's deterministic, and it keeps the transaction directly with the hotel. However, if there is no direct endpoint, then I'm going to move to OTAs. And so we've thought about that for the last 4 months after understanding and receiving that answer. We thought about exactly how to take your inventory and push it directly into ChatGPT to start to put up a beachhead against this disintermediation in a way that would be meaningful to you and meaningful as an industry. And we think we've got it solved. We are in a closed beta right now. We are successfully feeding some of our hotels' inventory directly into ChatGPT responses. We have that API and deep linking feed. of availability rates and inventory that allows someone to go from, I think I want to go to stay in Boston and I want to have a culinary trip, all the way down to, this is the hotel that I want to stay at. What's it cost to stay there next weekend? To, would you please make a reservation for me? We've completed that cycle. So I encourage you, scan this QR code, join our closed beta, help us work through this process. Now, one of the exciting things that we're getting as a result of this program is not only that we are able to generate reservations through these channels on behalf of our hotels, we can also see how many people visited the hotel booking engine but didn't book. So we're getting we're about to get a real sense of the opportunity and availability that's there through ChatGPT and what type of audience it's driving right now, this very day, in hospitality and travel. So we think this is going to be very interesting, not just for those of you who are participating in this closed beta, but for those of you who might want more data on what's happening with ChatGPT and whether it's driving reservations. And so for insight on that, please follow our thought leadership. You can see that QR code on the left-hand side. Follow us on LinkedIn. We're going to continue to publish about this. We're going to be really transparent about the things that we're working on and the things that we're doing to try to, like I said, build a beachhead in this space. And as I started with, it's a scary and it's an anxiety-driven time, but it's still a very human industry. We appreciate the ability to work with each of you to maintain that very human connection between you and your staff and your offering and the customers who love to stay at your property. ChatGPT and LLMs have the opportunity to be disruptive, but they also have the opportunity to create a new and meaningful connection between you and those guests. And we're here to help you try to figure out how to do that. Again, we're going to be transparent in the process and try to be a resource, not just for you, but for the industry as a whole. Thank you very much.